Failure as a path to success. Welcome to How I Broke This podcast, hosted by me, Monica De Leon. This is a show where entrepreneurs talk about their biggest failures and how they forged their path from broken dreams to true success. This is How I Broke This. Okay, so welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Monica on This Is How I Broke This podcast. And this show is where I talk to incredibly inspiring individuals and share stories about their setbacks, turning into remarkable comebacks to impact the world. And before we get on to our special guest today, I want you all to ponder on this. Ever wonder what separates the dreamers from the doers? It's more than just grit, right? It's having the right partner who's been through the trenches and knows exactly how to turn vision into reality. So today we're diving into the wild, unpredictable world of startups where the right moves can make all the difference. And there's definitely no room for average. So let's talk about turning visions into reality and doing it like a pro with Frederick Carey. So how are you today, Frederick?
I am great, and I'm happy to be here with you and with your audience, and may this grow to incredible heights. I think what you're doing is great. Talking about the grit of entrepreneurship, most people just hear the success stories, and that makes people feel like, why not me? And I'm going to tell you what it really is all about with your help.
Fantastic. Okay, so before we get going, just a short introduction about Frederick. So Frederick Carey is a powerhouse entrepreneur and CEO of IdeaPros, a company that guides qualified entrepreneurs through the complexities and pitfalls of the startup world. With his entrepreneurial spirit, Fred started many businesses in different industries, created many successes, and acquired thousands of lessons along the way. His desire to give back to a community of like-minded eccentrics led him to create IdeaPros, the world's first super venture partner, a company that could roll up its experienced sleeves and provide every entrepreneur with the opportunity to see their vision become a real company with a real product. He also produces a weekly show for entrepreneurs that has been viewed by over 4 million people. Wow. So, as a top 1% business professional, who's who in America, and top ranked attorney for several years, Fred's personal brand can best be described as be legendary. I love this so much. Okay, so everybody, once again, please welcome Frederick Carey. Thank you for hopping on today.
Well, thank you. And my mom wrote that.
Really?
It's actually about 100 million now instead of 4 million. So that's some old copy. But in any event, I'm excited to be doing this. And I know there's a lot of people listening in that are having questions, feeling pain, being uncertain about what they should be doing with their futures. And I hope we can wade through all of that.
Of course. So let's get started with my very first question. I don't typically ask this question in the beginning, Frederick, but first question I want to ask you is, how does it feel like to be the president and CEO of IdeaPros?
It's awful. I'll tell you why I'll tell you why it's awful.
I didn't expect that answer.
Well, no, but I didn't either when I started IdeaPros. It's very rewarding and it's an awful experience at the same time because if any of you are, well, most of you hopefully listening are in a startup, you're getting ready to start your business, you've started your business, you're going through growth pains. I have 400 companies under the IdeaPros umbrella, each of which is a startup, each of which has fires to put out almost every single day, and I'm the daddy to 400 screaming children. So there are moments where I don't get enough rest or enough recognition for the good things we're doing, because when something screws up on one of the companies, everybody's out there trying to put out fires and focusing on the negative aspects of building a company. So that's why. But other than that, it's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. So your entrepreneurial journey, Frederick, spans like multiple industries and of course countless lessons. I'm sure starting a business can be both, how would I call it, invigorating, but terrifying at the same time, right? I've never started a business, but I'm sure it is very terrifying. So, what sparked your passion for entrepreneurship? How did those early experiences shape your approach today?
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur since I hit 20. And the reason probably there was passion and desire, but that was under the surface. The real reason on the top level is I didn't think anybody would have me.
Mhm.
Basically, I had to find my own way to go. I didn't feel that I could be molded into a corporate structure, a box of do the same things every day. It
Yeah.
was not something that resonated with me, nor was it something that I thought I could be really good at. So I started looking at the businesses that I could start, and have been doing that throughout my career.
Did anyone in your family or the people around you growing up influence your idea to start a business or go into entrepreneurship, or was it just you?
Well, they did influence it, but they influenced it in a negative way, because my father worked for the as a civilian for the U.S. military for his entire career, and he was in that box that I
Mm.
want to be in, and he did not have a very happy life. In fact, he taught me how to be a great, well, I don't want to say this modestly, but a great dad, because I ended up raising both of my daughters on my own, and he was kind of an absent father. So the same lessons that negatively inspired me to do something different with my family and being
Mhm.
a father is the same inspiration I got of not, I don't want to go down that road. I want to do things my own way.
So what mindset did you have to start a business? Because as I mentioned, it can be very rewarding, but scary, terrifying at the same time. So as a young kid, a young man, what kind of mindset did you already have at that time? Or what steps did you have to take in order to get into this industry?
Yeah, and when you're in your early 20s and you're starting an entrepreneurial journey, you have this sense of invulnerability that nothing can defeat you. You can do anything, and you end up getting a lot of battle scars along the way. Get a good psychological plastic surgeon to help you on your journey. But in the beginning, it's just a mark of this exuberance of creation. And as we said offline, I'm a musician as well. So the creative process was always very important to me, and I put it into the business. The reality is, the younger you are, the less you think about the downsides and how to prepare for them and address them. You're only looking forward, and you think every meeting you have with one investor is going to lead to a $10 million check, and you learn over time that you don't have that. But reckless exuberism is how most of us start that entrepreneurial journey.
Wow, amazing. And how long has it been, Frederick, since you started?
Geez, so see, well, I'm a fan of old fashions, and when I first started drinking them, they were just called fashions. That's how old I am. That's a complete joke there for you non-drinkers in the audience, but no, I've been doing this 40 years or so, and had a stint as an attorney in the middle of it all, and then took a break for a year to get an international MBA.
Mhm.
After my first public company that I took public, I decided to get an MBA for some stupid reason, and did that. And so I've been doing this all my life, really.
Wow, 40 years. That's incredible. Okay, let's go back to your company, IdeaPros, Frederick. So there's actually, I just did a kind of research a couple of hours ago, and there's a part of a page I found on a website on the internet called 54 Collective, and it read about 1 in 5 startups will fail in the first year, and eventually 90% will close down. And in your experience, you've built businesses across different industries, but regardless of the field, in your experience, like what common threads have you noticed in what makes a venture successful?
There are several different critical elements, really. I'll highlight some of the biggest ones. The shockingly, the biggest failure of startups led by founders is that they've created something that there's no demand for.
Mm,
Think about that. I mean, let that sink in. How shocking is that that you spend all your time, energy, money, blood, sweat, and tears creating something that nobody wants? And well, hopefully we can talk about that a little bit later. The other thing that there is timing.
mm,
There was a Harvard study on some of the biggest startups in history, funded with tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, premium executive team, really good differentiated model. And they looked at why some of those companies became wildly successful and why others failed miserably. And it was all on timing. Like, are you in the right place at the right time with the right offer? And then you can make it. And if you're not, you could have something really, really great. For example, the first electric car, 1890, a little early to the party. And so it's all about the timing part of it. So that's another big failure point. And the third thing I think is that, well, I'm going to add two things. So we'll have four. The third thing is that entrepreneurs are like dogs looking at squirrels. There's an opportunity passes in front of them and they go there. And all of a sudden you're going to make a sharp left turn because this company wants to give you 20 grand to do something, or this other company on the opposite side of where you want to be wants to give you 50,000 to build this other technology for them. And so we get really scattered instead of being myopically and narrowly focused on the smallest sliver of a sector that we can go in and dominate. If we can do that, then we can grow from that. But we're all over the place. And then the fourth thing is the transition from being a founder to being a leader. You would
mm.
think they're kind of the same. They're completely opposite because a founder is used to doing everything on their own, one-arm paper hanger, all the roles, and a leader has to give that up. And so the best companies have leaders. They have really great ideas. They surround themselves with a really good team. And then they step back and let that team execute on
Mm.
what that vision is.
I love that you gave this very huge difference between an entrepreneur and a leader, uh, Frederick, because I think a lot of people do not know that there is actually a difference between both. So does it mean that if you are an entrepreneur, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can be a leader? Is that right?
You can be a leader, but you have to have it in you. And you should know that if you're dealing with venture capital, for example, one of the first conversations venture capitalists typically have privately after they give you the money is how soon do we need to get rid of him or her and put in professional management. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have a startup and you're kicking ass and venture capital wants to get all over you, you better go to business school at night and really learn how to be a leader as well, because then otherwise, you'll be in there for 18 months and then replaced.
Talking about entrepreneurs and leaders, do you think it's a skill to be both, or it can be something you already have, in your opinion?
I think leadership is hard. You have to really learn because the person who is the entrepreneur is that type A personality. They want to do it all on their own. They think they can do it better than anybody, which is why most of them fail, right? Because, oh,
Mm,
I think it's going to be great. So therefore, the world will think it's great. So taking that mentality and training it to being a leader and understanding that when you go into a boardroom with all your executives, what I do, I speak last all the
mm.
time. Because if I speak first, everybody's going to start parroting what I've said and go along with my opinions. So letting go and being a leader is really a trained thing. You have to understand the only value you're going to get from the people around you is the value of letting them be creative and empowered.
All right. The timing you mentioned earlier, I think that's very important in any business Frederick, about timing. Is there a specific company that you particularly know of that succeeded because of this? Number two, timing, as you explained.
Airbnb.
Airbnb.
That's a perfect example of a company that succeeded because of timing. Uber's another one. I'll dig into Airbnb a little bit if you want me to. Um, so whenever I deal with any of my companies that we start, when you go do a pitch deck to investors or something, you start with the problem and then the solution, right? I start with a big idea. Like what's this moment in time that's making what I want to do really important? And in fact, because Airbnb did not understand, and here I am questioning billionaires, but because they didn't understand the timing part of it, they were in the trenches. They focused on the fact that, hey, there's people that want to live with other people and people that want to rent their rooms in their homes, and there's no way to do it, and we've created a way to do it. That they focused on the problem, right?
Hmm.
Problem with focusing on the problem is investors uniformly said, wait a minute, your whole thesis is people are going to let strangers live with them. I don't buy that at all. And so they got rejected over and over and over again. When reality it was perfect timing. Why was it perfect timing? It was perfect timing because everybody in America is looking for a side hustle.
Mm.
Happen, right? I'm going to do this. I'm going to drive that. I'm going to do this extra work. I'm going to do online work. Everybody was looking for a side hustle. And interest rates were starting to go up dramatically, and people had variable interest rates. So you had a whole subset of America that screw whether a stranger was going to be living with me. I'm going to lose my damn house because I can't afford the mortgage anymore, right? So now there's an opportunity, rent out a room, screen people, and I'm sorry, I'm just getting over a cold,
No,
so
no, no problem.
in the middle of it. Screen people and get them in there. So the timing was absolutely perfect for them, and that's why they started rolling and taking off. And by the way, when they got to be $1 billion company, and then uh, COVID happened, and so they had. So even when you are successful, you have
Right.
to look at ways to maintain that success. How they did, and that's another example for you folks out there that are running into a situation you feel, do I have to pivot? There's no bigger pivot than being $1 billion company and losing 85% of your revenue literally overnight. And so they pivoted by creating all these virtual events. You could do meditation with sheep in Switzerland or learn how to cook from a great gourmet chef in France. And so they started creating all these virtual events to keep
Mm-hmm.
coming and paying, and they built it up until COVID was over. But they have an extraordinary story that anybody wants to go on YouTube and spend time checking them out and listening to their CEO, a very humble person, and he'll tell you all the hard stuff you have to go through.
So in your company in Idea Pros, Frederick, when it comes to timing, do you give advice in this? Do you know if the idea is like, for example, a person has, okay, I have this idea. What can I do about it? Can you actually know if the timing is right? Can you say, I don't
Yeah,
think it's the right time for that?
yeah, we can know, and we do, because one of the critical things that we do right in the very beginning, which, by the way, every entrepreneur needs to do this. And in fact, we offer it for about around $1,000. Anybody that is interested can ask afterwards or write to me, whatever. But it's basically a strategic playbook that ends up being, it's about a 70-page report. Think of the old business plan that nobody reads. And this is a really strategic document that looks at all the elements of what you want to do, both on the macro side and the micro side. And one of those things is timing. One whole section of the report is why now? Like, what are the factors that's making it? And we'll actually score you on a 1 to 10 basis to say, hey, you're a little early to this party, or you're late, and find something else to do. But I said earlier I wanted to talk about this a little bit more. And so, do you have any sports that you're like passionate about? Do you like soccer or anything like that?
I used to be into table tennis, actually.
Able to.
Yes.
Bad example, but I'd love to play you sometime. But any type of a team sport. So we're going to pick soccer because that's kind of
Okay.
universal. So I'm going to hire you as my new soccer coach. But you don't know who any of the players are.
Mhm.
You don't know any of the opponents you're going to play. You don't know how long the season is. You don't know how much money you're going to have to build your team up. In fact, I haven't even given you the rules of the game, nor what this audience that's all around you really needs to feel happy and want to root for your team. People would laugh at something like that, that if I tried you to get that way and start the team, but that's how we start businesses all day long.
Mm.
We start businesses that way. It's crazy. And that's why we have this big failure rate. Most of it is because we don't have well thought out, well positioned businesses that are designed to go in and take a significant section of a subsection of a market that you want to be in. And so, yes, we can tell whether timing is good.
Very interesting. Like I like that. Why now? It's very simple, two words, and you can already know if it's the right timing or not.
Yes.
Incredible. All right. Let's go to your personal brand, Frederick. I love your personal brand. Actually, when I read your bio, I was like, this is cute.
Well, I did, and by the way, I have a registered trademark on that phrase, so you
Oh,
30 cents every time you say it. Uh,
okay.
but um, but yeah, I came up with it, and the reason I came up with it was that when you look at people, there's nobody that wants to have an average life. Although now I'm inclined to want that because it would be nice to wake up in the morning and not have anything to do. God, I can imagine that feeling. But none of us want an average life.
Mm,
And at the end of the day, when we go to bed, we put our head down on our pillow. What extraordinary thing did you do today? What little extraordinary thing? Where did you go outside of your comfort zone? What you want to be a lawyer? Did you pick up a book to read about being a lawyer? What thing did you do to progress your life personally, business, spiritually, physically, in any sense? What did you do that was extraordinary? So we don't do that. So we go about going to sleep, having an average day, and waking up in the morning and complaining about the fact that we don't have an extraordinary life. And the only way that you're going to be anything but average is by making a regular habit of doing these outside the box little extraordinary things. They don't have to be massive things. It could
so
be
true.
little
Yeah.
things. I took my time out of the day to go to this lecture I really wanted to see. I helped an old lady across the street. I bought this book on Hinduism and I want to study to get more spiritual. Like, what little extraordinary thing did you do today? And we want we just do average work and expect extraordinary results from that average work. Hence the phrase "fuck average, be legendary." And the only way you can be legendary is one day at a time, one little thing at a time.
Uh, I agree with that. That really resonated with me, Frederick, because to be honest, I actually do that. I learned that like, just 1% forward each day. That's already progress, right? That's already
Well,
your one success each day.
yeah, think about that. 1% a day is 365% a year. It's
That's
fucking massive.
true. Yeah, I love that. That's so powerful message to the audience. Okay, talking about your personal brand, how does that mantra, how do you call it, mantra, influence the way you mentor the entrepreneurs, go from average to exceptional? Like when someone comes to you and asks you, "Hey, Frederick, I have this incredible idea. What am I going to do to be legendary?" Because it's not about just being average, but it's about being exceptional. So how does
Right.
that go about?
Yeah, and those are two separate silos, right? You got an extraordinary idea, but that idea is not going to ever amount to anything if you don't have the extraordinary personality to
Mm,
pull it off. Because, uh, as you said at the beginning, most businesses fail, and so there is a ton of pain, and there's a ton of failure, and there are many times that you have to pivot. In fact, dramatically, a lot of times in order to succeed. So to really, when I see somebody and I want to hear about them and what their motivation is, who they are, how comfortable they are with failing, because failure is one of the key elements of succeeding. Like, I would not have been able to raise my two daughters on my own. By the way, I get Mother's Day cards and letters every year, greatest holiday for a guy to actually be recognized for.
Wow.
I would not have been able to do that had my dad not been such an asshole.
Mm.
Like he didn't give me any of the things I did. When I played football, he was all over me because he was a semi-pro athlete in part of his career. But when I picked up my guitar and grew my hair out and started wanting to become a musician, it was just like, calling me names that I don't want to repeat. And he showed me through those failures, he showed me how to be successful. And that same analogy can be applied to us. We're going to have those failures. So what is the
Mm.
makeup of the person I'm dealing with that we want to start something together? Will they accept failures? Will they take blame for them? Because there's a subset of people that anytime something goes wrong, they're going to blame this VP or that clerk or the receptionist or somebody other than themselves, or that's a client that's just a jerk, whatever it is. Take ownership. So when I talk about you're going to be extraordinary because you need to do these things. Are you up for this? Are you going to do it? Are you going to wake up at 3 in the morning screaming and crying, looking at the ceiling, wondering what the hell you're doing with your life? Go back to sleep and wake up ready to go that day. If you can do that, you can make it.
Wow, I think you already answered my next question, Frederick, talking about
Ooh, gonna put a minute off our timing.
yeah, this is as I mentioned earlier, because this show is mainly talking about failures and setbacks. And you as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, of course, you go through, I can imagine, tons of struggles and challenges. So maybe you can share more in detail, Frederick. Have there been moments in your career where it felt like, you were down on the ground, your business had you pinned down, like obstacles seemed insurmountable. Like, how did you navigate those dark moments and emerge stronger on the other side?
Yeah, that's just this is a warning. You're about to hear sensitive information. If you have the kids around, sending them to another room. Failure never ends. I mean, you're going through those turbulent waters every day. The example I gave of Airbnb, $1 billion, all of a sudden COVID comes and they've lost 85% of their revenue, right? It never ends. I'm going through it right now with IdeaPros as we transition from this all-in co-founder company to a company that's more advisory, and we can help you get capital you need. We can help you with your strategies. We can help build you out the way you need to go. Those pain points are existing today. They, they,
Mm.
they don't go away. And so how you deal with them is just accept the fact that it's part of life and part of what you need to do.
Has your perspective on failure and success changed over time? Like when you were in your 20s and starting, I'm sure it's very different compared to today.
Well, I'm a lot more skeptical. I know that there are a lot more things that can go wrong that can go right. And I know that the only way to take that big basket of wrong things and turn them into the one right thing you need to have is through this perseverance and not giving up and never saying die attitude. Um, I'm a lot more practical, understanding that things move a lot slower than we imagined they move when we're in our 20s. We want something, we want to get it done. We think it's going to happen overnight. Things can take years and years to develop, and especially if you're dealing with bigger companies. There's layers of corporate structure and hierarchy that you need to work through to get it finally yes on the joint venture you guys want to do together. There are all sorts of obstacles. So I think a big multi-decade dose of reality has made me a lot more practical and understanding how long it takes to right the ship.
Thank you for being very vulnerable today, Frederick, in terms of sharing your pain points at this moment. Like you said, that there are struggles with the business. So I want to ask you, at the end of the day, when you're at bed already, about to sleep, what comes to your mind? What do you think about? What do you tell yourself as you're the top guy of Idea Pros? And with all these strugglings happening with the business and everything around with the transition, as you mentioned. What do you think about before you go to sleep at the end of the day?
I think the last thing I think about just before I close my eyes is you got this. Really, just the
Love that.
one last little pat on the back because I know first moment that I wake up and go be terrified. And so you got put your arms around yourself when you go to sleep. But when you wake up, and any of you guys that are listening, when I say guys, both sexes or whatever sex you want to be, um, when you wake up in the morning is when you're the most vulnerable, right? Because all of your defenses are down, all your armor is down, and you just wake up and all of a sudden it's like, why am I doing this? And why didn't this work? And how am I going to make this happen? And I got 3 weeks until my rent is due. Uh, and you panic mode sets in when you have fires. And so that first vulnerable part of the morning is, by the way, why I focus my first part of the morning on exercise, meditation, reflection, positive affirmations, reading, um, and uh, and I spend about an hour and a half doing all that before I start my day, so I can gear up and get myself back in shape, physically, mentally, physiologically, to tackle another day.
That's amazing. I think not just for entrepreneurs or people with a business, but for anyone, right? I think I'm gonna do that tonight because
Good.
it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so I'm gonna go to bed very soon and I'm gonna say I got this. Got that from
Wait,
Fred.
2 o'clock in the morning right now where you are?
Yeah, Japan. I live in near Tokyo, so yeah, it's something that I always wanted to ask people like you. Like at the end of the day, at the end of before you go to sleep, I think it's so important to reflect on the day, what you did positively, and that's so important to let the audience know about
Yeah,
this.
and by the way, if you're that type of person, you can just get a little notebook and write one thing
Mm.
down at the end of every day before you go to bed. Just
Piece
write
of gratitude, yeah.
one thing, one little thing. I skipped bologna today. Whatever.
I like that. All right, one last thing, Frederick, what are your future aspirations as the CEO, the president of IdeaPros? Where do you see your company in the next 5, 10 years, or where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10?
Well, I say Idea Pros 5 years from now is kind of being the Amazon for entrepreneurship. We really have a wide variety of solutions for people. We also have the knowledge set to guide people down the right path and help train them as we help them build their businesses. So I see that hopefully running more without me doing so much of it, but having me involved, but more in speaking engagements and things. Um, Eyeing a little Italian fortress on a little island in Italy that I would love to turn into a getaway for
Amazing.
entrepreneurs
Wow.
like our audience that want to go away for a week and just kind of get back in the zone. And I want to keep playing my music that I just got
Mm.
6 months ago. So those are all good things.
That's very interesting. You should add that to your bio, Frederick, about the music, which I
Yeah,
learned earlier from you.
we'll make everybody download it and tell them.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so before we close out, Frederick, we want to tell the viewers and listeners of the show today, where can we find Frederick Carey? Where can we engage with you on social media or your website?
Okay. So the website's ideapros.com. There's also fredcarey.com, Cary. We have courses and things like that on that site. On Instagram, it's official Fred Carey, Cary again. I have, I think, about 560,000 followers on there, getting
Mhm.
personal advice and business advice every day. And if you have any type of music platform, why don't you download my first album? It's called "It's a Beautiful Day," and the artist name is Fred, duh, but it's a period between each letter. So Fred, "It's a Beautiful Day." Download it. You can make me 3 cents for every million plays.
I want to go
Oh, wait.
check it right now after the show. All right, so that's a lot of, you have the LinkedIn as well, right, Frederick?
Yeah, Frederick Carey on LinkedIn. And by the way, if anybody has any questions of any type, and
Mm.
my chief of staff is here, she's going to hate me for saying this, just write me, Fred at ideapros.com,
Okay.
and we'll answer your questions. We'll help you if we can help you, or we'll direct you if we need to direct you somewhere else. And we'll maybe even try to talk you out of being an entrepreneur if you're not the right person.
Yeah, definitely. What about the weekly show you produce for entrepreneurs? Is that still running?
That's a Facebook show that we do
Oh,
once a week. I'm kind of winding that down now and focusing more on the Instagram part of
okay.
it because I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of us have shorter attention spans nowadays, and
True.
so I'm
Very
taking
true. Yes.
my information out in 1 minute bites to people every day. I post at least one thing a day.
All right. Okay, so we'll make sure to have everyone look out for you, Frederick. We'll include links to find Frederick Carey on the notes below, and make sure to like and subscribe and let Frederick know about your thoughts on his business and insights in today's wonderful talk. And don't forget to leave them in the comments below. So thank you so much, Frederick. It's been, I can't believe it's been 40 minutes already. It's been quite a ride with you, and it's been a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so
Which
much.
is all.